Bismillahirrahmanirrahim and Assalamu alaikum. Today we are going to discuss a poem from Pakistani literature. The title of this poem is Creation and it is written by Reza Abedi. Now this poem is very interesting because at the outer surface it talks about how this world and how new worlds come into being, how one world gets destroyed and how another world or a new world comes into being. But underneath, or the background meaning or the in-between meaning is very different, because it talks about the post-colonial perspective, the post-colonial lens to see the world and to see how things go on and to see how chaos comes into this world. Coming towards the text of this poem, in the first couplet, he says, Adam approached the forbidden tree and this world came into being. Now this alludes to the reference of how this world came into being. When Adam, he was forbidden along with Eve, that he was forbidden not to touch the fruit of one specific tree. But because Satan lured him, because Satan attracted him, because Satan trapped him in his own ways, and he not only touched the fruit but ate that forbidden fruit. And just because of that, when the God decided to punish him, because it brought the wrath of God, so God punished him, God sent them both to this world, and then from their offsprings this world came into being, or this planet came into being where we now live. So this is the first couplet. Then he says in the second stanza, although it is a very unusual or unorganized sort of division in the poem, but he says, when from the states of Europe thieves, murderers were externed, they settled in America, Australia and other colonies, and the new world came into existence. Perhaps one day some criminals will be thrown out of this globe. They will inhabit the other planets in space and some new worlds will be born. Now he says that, all right, after Adam and Eve, this world came into being and this world started to grow and develop. Then after so many centuries, some people who were culprits for the mischiefs, who were doing wrong things, who were the hooligans, they were expelled because they were swirling this world upside down. So they were expelled from their countries. And what happened? They went to different countries and then they started establishing new countries, new places, new lands, and in this way new worlds, new countries came into being. And he thinks that in the future this is very much possible that some other people who are doing wrong things, who are doing wrong things, mischiefs and so many other problems, or they are corrupt from inside, they will be expelled from this country, and then they might create or they might develop or they might discover some new lands, some new worlds, because this is the fashion. Adam did it, he came, new world came into being. Then the looters and the robbers and the murderers, they were expelled from this country and new world came into being. Now then towards the last part of this poem, Reza Abedi says, oh God, is this the only way the worlds are to be created? No, he asks the questions. He thinks there should be love, there should be justice. So this is the main idea of this poem. Now coming towards the analysis part. Basically, if we exclude the first couplet, because it talks to the religious illusion which is there in Islam, in Christianity and most of the religions, because the world came into being in this fashion when Adam was expelled from the paradise, or from Eden, because he touched that forbidden fruit. The next part of this poem particularly deals with the post-colonial perspective, because he thinks, the writer thinks, or the poet thinks, that when people who had bad intention towards the other, who had this hollow perspective of white man's burden, because they thought that they were superior, they were civilized, they were educated and enlightened. In reality, they were criminals. In reality, they were hollow people. In reality, they were materialist. In reality, they were not the people who could be followed, who could be obeyed, or who could call themselves enlightened. But just because of their own boosting, what they did, they started colonizing different nations, different parts of the world, America, Caribbean, African region, and then the Asian region, subcontinent. So actually, people who were living already there, the natives, they were very good people. They had a good life. But those colonizers, because they were murderers, because they colonized different parts of the world through murders, they colonized different parts of the world by looting them, by making robberies, by bringing a lot of valuable things to their own countries, and just leaving the colonized nation without resources and without sources, who are still suffering. So he thinks that those colonizers were basically they were thieves, they were looters, they were murderers, and then they said in this disguise that they were trying to develop new words, but in reality they were looting them. In reality they were disturbing the balance of the world. They were disturbing the order of the world. Although they made new things, new inventions, new discoveries, but they disrupted the native and indigenous cultures. They disrupted the native and indigenous religions. They disrupted the native and indigenous languages by mixing them, by luring them, by attracting them towards their own hollow culture, by luring them towards their own hollow ideology, which was in reality nothing. Well, because from subcontinent they brought spices and clothing. From African region they brought ivories. From Caribbean region they brought the woods. So this was the main issue, or the major aim for them was to bring back the valuable things. But they were telling the world that they wanted to colonize them, because they wanted to enlighten them, to civilize them. And they actually had wrong intentions in their mind, because they were aggressive people, because they were the people who wanted bloodshed. So this is the second part, and he says that these worlds come into being because of these aggressive minds, because of the minds who are not able to obey and who think that they are good. Even Adam did wrong thing, because God gave him all the facilities and all the luxuries of life, and forbade him not to touch a single tree. But because of his mind, because of the lurings of Satan, because of the lurings of some other things, because of his curiosity, he touched that fruit. And similarly, this is the case with those looters, with those colonizers, with those thieves who wanted to who showed the world that they wanted to enlighten and civilize, but they had wrong intentions in mind, and they disrupted, they disturbed, they deteriorated, and they ruined everything in the world. So the poet is very much optimistic in this regard, that there is a 100% possibilities that now the colonization system has stopped, but still there will be people who will again come with those aggressive intentions, with those negative energies, and with those looting capacities to come again and go to some other regions, and then they develop another world, and they call themselves again the civilized and the people who are chosen. And then towards the last part of the poem, he actually prays to God. He prays to God that God should make the people realize to love people, to spread love, to spread humanity, to preach humanity, to preach love, because this way of creating new worlds should be stopped. This way of creating new balances should be stopped. This way of creating new orders must be stopped. We should go and meet other people with the language of love, with the feeling of love, and the way the worlds are getting created with those barbaric intentions. This must be stopped. This must not be repeated again, because humans are there to love. Humans must not kill other humans. Humans must not loot other people. Humans must not rob other people, because we are here with the aim in this world. The aim is to please God, to please humanity. And for that reason, we need to work diligently and close-knittedly with one another. And we should exclude hatred, we should exclude discrimination, we should exclude superiority and inferiority, and we should exclude the concept of we and the other. We should propagate and inculcate this concept that we all are equal and we all have the same rights, the same opportunities, and the same way to excel in the life. And then with this way we can achieve the major aim of our living, that is to please God and to please humanity. And with this we can have so many opportunities in the world. This is the whole poem, and this was the crux. Although there can be so many different dimensions, which could be materialistic approach, because everything is going on in this way. People are doing this creations of the world and disturbance of the world just for materialistic gains, and this basically is destroying the world order. Why? Because it is creating the capitalist society, it is creating the upper and the lower class, it is making the difference far ahead, because upper class have the luxury of life while the lower class is suffering. The labor class in so many countries, they do not have the access to clean water, they do not have access to health facilities, they do not have access to food. So this is actually destroying the world. So Reza Abedi is of the opinion that all of this must be stopped. All should be bring into one circle where all should be considered equal, and this materialistic approach, this colonization perspective, this should be eliminated from this world. This is all from this point. We can have so many other things to discuss, but for now we end it here. Stay tuned and see you with some other videos. Thank you very much. Allah Hafiz.